very excited for this next segment. My guest is a television journalist, a writer, a cookbook author, a food expert, a chef, and now a television star. I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about her new cooking series on PBS. Anupy Singla is joining us today. She has been on the show in the past, but it's been a while. Anupy, welcome back to Dr. Radio.
I am thrilled to be back. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to be talking to you, albeit not in person, but this is just wonderful. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So your brand is called Indian as Apple Pie. That's your website, indianasapplepie.com. It's your Instagram, Indian as Apple Pie. And it is your new PBS series in which you are starring that just started airing a couple of weeks ago. So let's talk about what Indian as Apple Pie means, and then we can talk about your series as well.
Absolutely. It was a play on words. I was born in India and I came to the United States when I was a little girl at 3 years old. I didn't speak any English. I only spoke Hindi. I learned English from a little black and white television set in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, where we ended up. And I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I would always go back every summer. Every chance we got, we would go back and visit my grandparents, and my one set of grandparents lived in a tiny village in the state of Punjab. So when I was thinking about who am I, at the end of the day, I am American. I love this country. I love America. And I'm also Indian. So, American as apple pie, Indian as apple pie kind of floated in my head. And then I just said, okay, it's going to be Indian as apple pie. That's kind of, interesting. And then we just decided to make it the name of the company. And WTTW, which is our member station here in Chicago, thought it would be a great name for the cooking show. So I just said, okay, are you sure? I don't want to assume that it would be, but are you sure? And they liked it. And so we just rolled with it and went with it.
One of the things I read, or did I hear you say? I did a lot of research, and I'm not sure whether I read it or heard you say it, was that when you were growing up here in this country, in Pennsylvania, being a woman or a child with darker skin, you felt out of place. And, you encountered some issues with other kids because of that. But that going home, when you sat around the dinner table, it was sort of your safe space. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I'd say that, everybody's got their path, right? So it's not even just being an immigrant and facing that. That was just what we had to deal with. I mean, back in the 80s, when I grew up outside of Philadelphia, truly there was no concept of what in India was. Very, very little. Very few of our community were there in that area. Also, very rare to find a grocery store. I mean, it's shocking when you think about how far we've come in about 20 years. And yes, it was something that I would try to hide during the day because people would make fun of it. I know that neighbors' kids wouldn't play with us because they just didn't understand who we were or where we were from. And that is just the process that you have to go through when you're different or when you are, changing what maybe the color of your street looks like. And those were the things that I was up against. And I think that what's so great is the reason why I took a step away from journalism and reporting to write my first cookbook. I just really love food and I love Indian food was really to make sure my girls didn't feel embarrassed walking outside of their home and taking who they were to other people. And that has changed a lot. And that's why I appreciate it so much. And I appreciate all of the changes out there. But it was part of my upbringing. And I think it also, people say, well, isn't that so sad? And I say, well, isn't that a great way to have a superpower to be able to go into situations and go, I don't want other people feeling this way. So I'm going to be that one that kind of goes over there to the person sitting in the back that's sitting alone at a table, putting my arm around them, going, hey, what are you all about? Because all of our stories are really important, not just mine. And that's who I've become. And I think that's what makes me more approachable and makes me able to get out there and be that ambassador for a cuisine that some people just don't quite understand, but we are making it more approachable, more understandable, and we're doing it with a lot of empathy and no real finger wagging. It's not like you have to listen or you have to do this. Just take what you want from this and from my platform and make it your own. And that's kind of what my platform is really all about.
I have watched some of your PBS segments. And folks, check your local listings to see Anupy's show, Indian is Apple Pie, on your local PBS station. Anupy is wonderful, and it's really fun to watch. But my complaint, Anupy, is that you are cooking these gorgeous spices with these gorgeous spices, and you're roasting them and you're making these beautiful meals, and we can't smell them. So you have to start some kind of smell-o-vision, because it just it looks so gorgeous and so fantastic, and you just know how beautifully fragrant all of the spices and the meals and the dishes that you're making are. And can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening on the show and the cooking series?
Well, I will tell you, shooting the show was, of course, an amazing experience. But when it's your day-to-day job and you're in it and you've got call time at 8 a.m. and you're going until 5 p.m., it is a lot. We were cooking, and I love that photo that you posted, by the way, of Julia Child, one of my absolute heroines out there. She's amazing. And just all of that is what happened. We had a quote, dirty kitchen set up in the basement, a makeshift kitchen. Everyone would come in. They all had codes to enter my house on their own, the whole crew. They come in, and we decided to shoot it in my kitchen just because I'm really comfortable there. We had all the spices there, and it's a beautiful space. So why not? And so that was going on. And then, there was a level of, we'd have to make it work because we didn't really have the budget on season one to travel to India and incorporate all of that as we'd originally wanted. So instead, I have an amazing director who positioned me in different spots in my house, on the deck, in the kitchen, in the front room, for these different positions. So you don't feel like you're just in one spot. Doing everything, right? Which is really important to make for an interesting show. And that helped a lot. I will say the fun part of it was everybody on our crew loved all the smells, didn't wrinkle their noses. Like, I was just so nervous inside, like, are they going to like it? Or are they not? I'd have to hold them back from eating all the food before we were done really getting all the photos and the videos and all of that. But that was just a great part of the process. And just to see how interested they were in the process just made it more fun for me. And so we had an absolute blast doing it, shooting it. And I don't know, I just feel like this was a real kind of gift for me to be able to give others, so that especially young kids growing up, no matter what your background is, you look at it and you go, hey, take pride in who you are, right? This is what it's all about. And these spices are all not just not they don't just smell good. They don't just taste delicious. They're so good for you.
They are.
So that's another part of the story that fits so perfectly with your platform as well and this show.
And you talk a lot about where we can get those spices. So growing up, I didn't even know what Indian food was. I moved to New York City, and all of a sudden, and of course time had passed, there were all these Indian restaurants. And I'm sure, what I get in an Indian restaurant, no matter how genuine the food is, it's going to be different than when you cook at home. But it was my introduction, and I absolutely fell in love with Indian food. And now in many towns and cities, you have grocery stores that are just dedicated to Indian spices and Indian types of food, Indian ingredients, or you have grocery stores that are sort of have international ingredients that include those. And you talk a lot about that in your show.
Absolutely. There is so much more accessibility to all of these ingredients and these products. But the key is you've got to learn how to use them, right? And I like to say in my classes, I don't want people buying a bunch of stuff and then just worshiping it in your closet because it looks so pretty and the packaging looks great and that spice, I just don't really know what to do with it. So I am that practical sort of voice that says, okay, we got cumin seeds, but did you know that if you cook with them, that's one way to use them in a little bit of ghee or in a little bit of oil, but you could also dry roast them and create a whole different spice, and this is how you would use it. So what I want is people to really think about this as a practical way to incorporate new ingredients into their week, but don't feel overwhelmed by it. Even if you pick up one or two spices, do that. And I give the advice to myself about other cuisines, like do that, but then also use them, right? So really figure out what is that one recipe a week. You don't have to even do more than that because it feels overwhelming. If you want to do a couple recipes in a week, just do the one a week that would be Indian, or maybe one every 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, you're going to start using these recipes and these ingredients and these spices more and more. But also, it's important to understand the origin of the spices. There are so many regions in India that have their own type of cooking. So you have to understand. I guess I look at it. I used to be a Bloomberg News reporter, and I always go back to that. And we always said you've got to learn how to actually write inside the box to be able to earn the right to go outside the box. So before you start looking at, Indian fusion and all of this, learn how to actually use these spices and what they're used for in that traditional way. And then you've earned those rights to now start being creative. I wouldn't jump into being creative right away until you get the basics down, because then you understand how many seconds you roast the cumin seed before it burns. Then
Hmm.
you know how long do you cook the onion, ginger, and garlic before it gets super mushy and you don't like it, or how much you need to cook it to really get rid of that initial bitterness. And then you know, like, how long do you have to cook your curry? What is a curry? It's not a spice blend, it's a gravy. You've got to cook it at least 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes to really get it to pull together like a really good Italian uh, you know, red sauce almost. What do those bubbles look like when you start cooking it for it to really be finished? Those sort of things are what we're trying to show through this cooking show.
And you do it so well, and it's really fun. And you make it so accessible. And it's fun as I'm watching, and in my head, I've got questions popping up. And just as the question pops up, you answer it. So you're really hearing what people would think to ask, like, what do those bubbles look like? How do we know when it's time to stir, when it's done? And folks, Anupy is also a cookbook author, and she's written many books, including Indian for Everyone, the Vegan Indian Cooking, Indian Slow Cooker. So you can actually go check out her cookbook so you can have the recipes at home, and you can watch her on PBS. I saw your several episodes of your show on YouTube on PBS, so I was very excited that I actually had access and could watch them. And it's really fun. I mean, you're doing for Indian food what Julia Child did for French food, I think. Don't you
Oh gosh,
think?
don't even put me in the same breath, but I will say this. Can I share something with the listeners
Sure. We have
that I
about
think
four
is really
minutes.
interesting? Yep. So when we launched the show, what happens through this process is your member station, so WTW in Chicago is who picked up the show and who agreed to produce it. We have to push it out there to see if the other stations want it. You have to get a minimum percentage of yes votes from all these different station heads. We literally got yes from almost all of the country, so like about 90%. That doesn't mean 90% is going to pick it up. They're just saying, yes, we agree that this should be a show that's going to go out there. Now we're looking at how much pickup we're getting. We had, last I checked, upwards of 54%, maybe even 60, close to 70% pickup in the rest of the country, which I have to say for season one for a show is pretty amazing. And we're seeing pickup in all these different areas. Fargo, North Dakota, I'm getting emails from there going, I watch your show. I'm getting emails from Savannah, Georgia, going, I'm watching your show. I mean, all these different places, I'm just getting chills. It's just so fun to hear people resonate with it. And so it's just been a fun journey to watch. Food brings us together. That's what I'm really trying to get across is we can get together, forget about the politics, put them aside for a minute. Let's talk about food and just what you enjoy. And I have a feeling we're going to get along, you know?
I really love love watching you. First of all, you're a pro. You're gorgeous. It's fun to watch you on camera. I feel like I'm sitting in the kitchen with you. So you're doing such a great job with this show. And folks, again, it's called Indian is Apple Pie. You want to check your local PBS listings. And of course, you can see some of the episodes on YouTube, which is where I got to see them. And check out Anupy's books. Her last name is spelled Singla. Anupy, we've got about a minute and a half left. Do you have some final thoughts you want to share with our listeners today?
Well, there's a lot of episodes coming up that are amazing. Dal is our
dal.
lentils, legumes, lots of fiber, some protein too. And you've been talking about lentils, beans, and peas. Indian food is the perfect way to cook them and enjoy them and love them. So that is going to be an episode coming up. My chicken curry, the essence of chicken curry, blowing myths on curry is one as well. So just join the journey. And by the way, someone asked me when I was replying to an email, are you AI or are you actually Anupy? I reply to all my emails. I am not AI. You will get a reply back. It may take a little time, but reach out and say hello and find me, my email on the website. I would love to hear from you.
You're definitely not AI. Anupy Singla, cookbook author, food expert, founder of Indian is Apple Pie. She also has food products out in stores. She has frozen foods coming out, or they're already out, and spices. Check out indianisapplepie.com for more information. So excited and happy and for you to be on the show, and congratulations on your PBS show, Indian is Apple Pie. Thank you so much for joining us. And folks, this is our mid-show break. I have to say this quickly because we're running out of time. It's a move your fanny break. So get out of your chair, get off the couch. If you're already exercising, good for you. Pick up that chest, shoulders down, pick up the pace a little bit. Challenge your body, do some push-ups, some squats, some plies, take a walk. We'll be back with more after this short break on Dr. Radio.